across the timeline, plays it to Christian Brown. Here's a lob. A slam! A 40-foot alley-oop. CB on the lob. Apache on the throwdown.
Once again, ends much more abruptly than expected, I would say. The intro does, but what can you do?
Very loud, but
it is quite loud. The mix there, not a great one, but everybody's headphones are different, the whole thing. So when I was doing it, it just seemed like the right volume. But whatever. Okay, Countdown 2022 March Madness number 2, February 14th, 2022. The day. Last week was certainly a week that is very February-like. You saw a lot of the good teams lose. You saw some of the other mid-major schools kind of show that they are clearly the best in that conference. And I think we start with Auburn losing, an upset pick that we both had, a pretty obvious pick. I nailed it with the JD Note. He was totally dominant in this game, 28 points, a few steals, couple blocks. He was a big-time player in that game, and I feel like Auburn was always a very vulnerable number one overall team given the Georgia and Missouri games.
Yeah, they struggled against some weaker teams. They were due for a loss, I think. And
back on the must bus.
Yep, absolutely.
Got to be back on it. The dream that you want to die that is pretty much dead is the West Coast Conference 4 bids. Painful
Thank
death
goodness.
With San Francisco going down. But San Francisco did rebound with victories over Pepperdine, who, come on, that's a game they got to win. They won by 44 points. And Santa Clara they beat pretty easily. So I still think San Francisco is good enough to be a tournament team. You look at the metrics, they're good. It's just that kind of a loss is pretty bad. Because considering before that, lost to Grand Canyon, which is not great, but not the end of the world. Lost to Loyola Chicago, BYU, Gonzaga, St. Mary's. But then you lose to Portland. That's bad. But I think the West Coast Conference is pretty much guaranteed 2 bids right now. I think Gonzaga obviously is a lock, and St. Mary's I think is going to get in. But then if San Francisco or Santa Clara finish strong, or even BYU, if one of those teams, somebody's got to snipe Gonzaga. That's the only way. If somebody beats Gonzaga in the tournament, that's the only way they're going to get 3 hours.
Yeah, I don't see it happening. I mean, St. Mary's played them tough for about 10 minutes. And then
yeah, I would say that's fair. It was a 1-point game in the first half of the first half.
Yeah, so.
And then Gonzaga had a 13-point lead at the half. So
yeah,
I think Gonzaga is probably untouchable until whenever their time comes in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
They do finish the schedule strong in terms of West Coast Conference opponents, San Francisco, St. Mary's, to finish the season, but I don't think they're going to have too much trouble with either of them. They beat San Francisco by 16, and then they beat St. Mary's by 16, so not sure that anything's going to happen with them. I mean, I can't believe that every single year we talk about Gonzaga and, their schedule. It's like, what do you expect? They can't do anything. They can't go to a different conference.
Right.
They can't go to the Pac-12. It's just not going to happen. The Pac-12 wants football. They're not going to get football with Gonzaga. And Gonzaga always has a really hard non-conference schedule. So why do I see these stupid tweets talking about how Mark Few is taking the easy way every season? It's so dumb.
I mean, they really don't have much of a choice. Football drives conferences, so it is what it is. So
Gonzaga lost to Duke by 3. They lost to Alabama by 9, but Alabama literally – could not miss in that game. They shot 13. They made 13 threes, and they pretty much controlled the pace. And that was an off game for Gonzaga.
Yeah,
they just killed everybody else.
I think Chet Holmgren's finally has his college legs too. I mean, I think he came in and wasn't spectacular like everybody thought, and now he's figuring it out. So
yeah,
now that they got him going, they're going to be tough to beat regardless of who they play.
I mean, he's shooting 74% from inside the 3-point line.
Yeah.
So and he's also shooting 46% from 3 as well. So that's going to be a problem. I think teams are going to have a lot of trouble with him and Timmy. That was the big
averaging
thing.
like 42 blocks a game or something like that.
I think he's got a lot going. He's not Walker Kessler, but he's getting some blocks. I mean, Walker Kessler, we can talk about that real quick. Auburn bouncing back on Saturday against a very bad Texas A&M team. Like Texas A&M was sneaky good for a little bit, but they're just not good now. And Walker Kessler had casual 12 blocks, so good by Texas
A&M. Heck of a way to
just
get
keep going at him.
A triple-double with blocks, right?
Yeah, he had 12, 11, and 12.
Yeah.
I mean, why do you even keep going after him at that point? Why don't you just shoot threes? I feel like that's kind of – they're also – Texas A&M's 207th in the country, 3-point percentage. So now we know why they didn't do that. But, yeah, I mean, the West Coast Conference 4-bid thing is dead. And when Purdue beat Illinois, you get the feeling, okay, Purdue's probably in a tier of their own in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
But I think the issue with closing games or not turning it on for a long time, like they did not turn it on until they were down 11 to Maryland, and they won because Maryland's not good. But they did get murdered by Michigan. Michigan destroyed them. That was another upset pick.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think there's a team in their tier of their own. I don't think there's a team in the Big Ten.
Big question mark.
There's no team in the Big Ten that is in a tier of their own right now.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of jumbled together at the top.
Yeah.
But I think Purdue, if they can learn how to close games or at least start to like play a full 40 like they did against Illinois, I think that's when you're really worried about them. But elsewhere in the Big Ten, Rutgers is apparently like the 95-96 Bulls when they're playing at home. I mean, they beat Ohio State. They beat Ohio State, Purdue, and Michigan State at home. They won at Wisconsin.
Yeah,
they still have a terrible net ranking, but I feel like that's a team that could sneak into the tournament. I know they have a couple of really, really ugly losses. Lafayette is just horrendous.
Yeah.
But them and Michigan, I think, could sneak in. I feel like Indiana is a team that might be in trouble with a tournament bid late in the season in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, Rutgers, I mean, they've went on a heck of a run, beating Michigan State, Ohio State, and Wisconsin the last three. They play Illinois Wednesday. So I mean, they could definitely play themselves in, no question. They played Illinois, Purdue, Michigan, Wisconsin, still left on their schedule. So
yeah, they got to win a few.
They could also lose every game from here on out.
The thing that makes no sense with them,
they're very streaky.
2-3 in quad 2, with losses to Penn State, Minnesota, and DePaul. 2-2 in quad 3 with losses to Maryland and UMass. And 6-1 in quad 4 with a loss to Lafayette. So it's like they're over 500 in quad 1, but then they're under 500 in quad 2 and at 500 in quad 3. Makes no sense. Like they have some great wins, but just some really ugly losses like Penn State, Minnesota, DePaul. I mean, those are bad. I don't know, 9-5 in the Big Ten. They get a couple more Q1 wins. It's going to be hard to argue. Like if they're 7-5 in quad 1 to end the season, how do you not put them in?
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to be a very hard thing for the committee to do. They're 81st in the net, though, so that's definitely hurting them right now. But in the Big Ten, like I said, Indiana 41st in the net right now. They have 3 Q2 losses. They're 2-5 in quad 1. If they fall under 500 by a few games in Big Ten play, I think they're in trouble. They're 7-7 right now in the Big Ten, but it's going to be dependent, I think, on Michigan. I mean, Michigan's ahead of Indiana by 6 spots in the net, despite a 2-6 quad 1 mark.
Do you think a 9-11 Big Ten regular season record gets you into the tournament, or you got to be 10-10?
I don't know. I think it depends on the losses. I feel like if you have a Rutgers type Q4 loss, that's going to kill you.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think for the good of the tournament, I would much rather see Rutgers than Indiana right now. Who the hell wants to watch Indiana? It's embarrassing.
True.
They're most of the time they can't shoot. They run zero offense. They're pretty good defensively. But I don't want to watch that. I mean, who cares? But I think one of Michigan and Rutgers will get in, I believe. I think one of them sneaks in. And Michigan has the clear advantage with their net ranking right now. They're ahead of teams that maybe they shouldn't be ahead of, but they are. So we'll see. Oklahoma officially back on the bubble after a victory over Texas Tech. Oklahoma with a Q3 loss to Butler. Other than that, they've been pretty good. I mean, 3-8 in the Big 12 in the Q1 department. 4-8 in the Big 12 does hurt them a lot, I would think.
Yeah.
But one of these Big 12 teams that has a ton of losses in conference play is probably going to get in. Like Iowa State is 3-9 and Oklahoma's 4-8. I think one of those two probably gets in.
Yeah.
It's weird. I don't know. It's hard to measure. I don't really see either of them as a tournament team, but I also think that with the way that things are going, I would assume that we are going to see one of them in there. And I don't know how much do you think conference record should matter. I don't even know how much it technically does, but how much should it matter?
I mean, I guess it doesn't matter as much, but I mean, Oklahoma, they're going to have to win some games still, right? I mean,
yeah.
They're 14-11 overall.
They're hardly they're on the bubble, but they're very low on the bubble.
Yeah, they got to be pretty low, I would think. But I don't know. I mean, I guess can you justify putting Oklahoma in and not putting teams above them in?
Okay, what if it comes down to Oklahoma? What if it comes down to Oklahoma and North Carolina? North Carolina's 10-4 in a terrible conference. They've gotten murdered in 7 Q1 games with 0 Q1 wins.
I think North Carolina gets in because they're North Carolina.
And I also think the fact that I know they're 0-7 in Q1, but they're also don't have any 2, 3, or 4 losses that are bad. They're 18-0 in the others, but 10-4 in a terrible conference is not that impressive. I mean, you just look at their Q1 losses; it's embarrassing. Like they weren't even close in any of these games except for Notre Dame. So we'll see how the bubble shakes out. It tends to do so. Baylor destroyed Texas. Texas had beaten Kansas on Monday before that game. Baylor wins, but Jonathan Chachua is out for the season. I think that's going to kill Baylor in the tournament because I think their interior presence with him and Flo Thamba takes a huge hit here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big loss.
And they don't have the same guard play that they did last season.
He's done, right? I mean, there's no chance.
No Vital there either. I mean, it's going to be a problem for them early. I think Baylor – I'd be surprised if Baylor gets the Elite Eight. Yeah. We'll see. It all depends on matchups. The Pac-12 that we'll talk a little bit more about later, I'm sure, but it's very hard to evaluate the Pac-12 right now after Arizona. Like Arizona, clear number one. I think after that, it's completely wide open because the metrics don't like USC. They like UCLA. Oregon lost to Cal. It's very – I mean, is this a 4-bid league or a 3-bid league? I don't even know.
Yeah.
It's gonna be close.
Yeah, they're and they once they got in the tournament last year, they dominated, but
they do it every year.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
Cal's a bad loss. Cal is 11-15, 124th in KenPom, just a bad team. Cal had lost let me do some quick math there. Cal had lost 9 games in a row before beating Oregon State and Oregon. So the state of Oregon doing their job. Oregon will probably sneak in though.
I think so. I don't know how you don't have 4 teams from the Pac-12 in.
But there's there's no way it's anybody other than the top 4 right now, unless they have a shocking conference tournament result like last season with Oregon State.
Yeah,
so,
Oregon State does that again.
I mean, I will quit, I think. They're so bad.
Yeah.
They shouldn't even be able to play in it. They're 3-19. I mean, Jesus. It's bad. It's embarrassing, but what can you do? All right.
Crazy.
So I said Memphis was going to get taken apart by Houston. That's on me. I didn't know that Penny Hardaway had the capability to win a big game, but he did. So congrats to them.
Yeah.
Memphis and SMU, one of those two gets a bid maybe if they make a big run here.
I mean, Memphis is on a 5-game winning streak. They're looking better. Penny's high schoolers that he has playing apparently have grown up because that was a problem. So
really beat a gauntlet of Tulsa, East Carolina, UCF, and Tulane before they beat Houston.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have, if they keep playing this way, obviously we know the talent's there. It's just the coaching is horrendous. If they could win their next 5, get to 10 in a row before they finish the year with Houston, I mean, they're probably in.
I would say,
I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
I think this is a multi-big
They
conference.
got life. They got life.
Yeah, congrats to Penny. Won a big game, big deal. So Houston lost to both Memphis and SMU last week. Not sure what we make of that. I think injuries are probably playing a factor in that. I don't believe that they've had all their guys in there, but we'll see. I mean, obviously Houston's in, one of the best teams in the country, but pretty bad week for them.
Yeah.
Mountain West basketball, before we get to the other things, continues to be just tremendous content. I mean, yesterday, last game of the day before the Super Bowl, Colorado State, Boise State overtime. We're going to talk a lot more in depth about the Mountain West here in a little bit, but I mean, have you watched any of it yet? It's great stuff.
I got nothing.
It's so slow, but they're like so efficient compared to what they know. Like you have Wyoming, a very efficient offense. Colorado State, same thing. But then you have these very efficient defenses with Boise State, San Diego State, Fresno State.
Yeah, I don't have ESPN Plus, so
I think a lot of it's on FS1 or CBS Sports Network.
Yeah, no, I wanted to watch those games yesterday, but we had, of course, had stuff going on for the Super Bowl, and I didn't get to watch them. So,
well, you'll be, I'm sure, give it like a few weeks right before the conference tournament. We'll be all in on that.
Oh yeah.
It's good stuff though. I think it's probably the best conference to watch outside of the Power 5, Power 6 conferences. But the problem is the Power 6. I mean, Big East basketball is fine. Big 10 fine. Big 12 fine. Pac-12 depends on the game. SEC's good. The ACC's atrocious. Nobody wants to watch that. So that's something that I look at. So maybe the Mountain West is like the third best conference to watch in the games here, probably because there's so many different teams that they could have a 4-bid league, I think. But let's do start, sit, cut. Deep run edition. Everybody loves doing these on the internet. This is based on who you trust to make a deep run in the tournament. And it's 5 groups of 3 teams. We'll start with the first one. Auburn, Purdue, Kansas. How do you approach that?
I initially looking at it, I thought that I would start Auburn. But then I started thinking that, they're a little streaky. They've played some tough games. And Purdue seems to be in the same boat. I know Kansas has played some close games, but I'm going to go start Kansas, sit Auburn, and cut Purdue. Purdue scares me.
Yeah, last year they got bounced in the first round by North Texas. So I think Auburn is the team that you can trust here the most because they have like a lot of guys that can contribute. I mean, they have a lot, and their length is unbelievable because after you have 2 shorter guys that play a lot, Wendell Green, KD Johnson, but then you have Jabari Smith, Walker Kessler, which is probably the best 4 and 5 in the country right now. Yep. You trust their guards because Wendell Green's a really good shooter. KD Johnson's a big-time glue guy, a guy that you need. I know he's not very big, but or he's bulky, but he's not tall. Zep Jasper, another solid guard, veteran guard to go along with Wendell Green. Their bench is good. Flanagan plays a big role there. 6'6", 215. Jalen Williams as well, another lengthy guy. I just trust them. I mean, I know they've had a couple of weird games, but I feel like in the big games they show up. They beat Kentucky. They beat Alabama by a lot. They beat LSU late December was a big game. They won that game. They beat Alabama twice, as I was trying to say before I didn't say it at all. But I just trust them more. I don't know. Just a very balanced team. I'm going to sit Purdue. I don't think Purdue's going to get knocked out early again. Like maybe Sweet 16, maybe Elite 8, but I don't see them as a team that gets bounced in the first round again. I'm kind of basing a lot of these 2 picks off of the length, and Purdue has it. Yeah. I mean, with Edey and Williams underneath. I mean,
they can't guard anybody.
That's when Ivy's going to have to show up and defend. I mean, that's kind of his job. That's what you expect from him, but he hasn't really done it in a lot of games. But I think their offense is going to be too much for people. They're like Iowa, but they aren't as good shooting the ball. They're better inside. They're way more athletic. And I think they're still a better defensive team than Iowa was last season. So I would sit Purdue. I'm going to cut Kansas. I just don't trust them. I think out of these three teams, they are the least balanced and probably the team that should have more than 4 losses. I mean, they the one game where you're like, okay, they're legit is when they annihilated Baylor, but then they lose to Texas, they lose to Kentucky, lose to Texas Tech. Those are all good losses. Lost to Dayton was a bit questionable. Offensively, they're very good, no questioning that. Defensively, you get a little bit worried about this team. 40th in efficiency in the country. I think a lot of their offense is going to run through Agbaji. You never know where you're going to get off their bench. Remy Martin is good, but I don't think he shows up enough. So I think the teams I trust the most, Auburn, Purdue, Kansas. So we're going to kind of almost flip it, except you're going to cut Purdue, and I'm going to. Yeah.
I saw Brad Evans posted who Purdue is surrounded by in adjusted defensive efficiency. And they are behind Drake and Jacksonville and just ahead of San Diego and UNC Greensboro. Good company for them.
Yeah, I think those are teams that all have no offense, so they have to just play defense, I would assume. I mean, we know that they're not good defensively. Last year, Iowa was 75th, so better than Purdue, but I think it's similar. I feel like Purdue, in big games, I think they're going to show up.
Okay.
The Illinois game is a prime example of that. Now, what happened after that is very weird. Michigan was a classic letdown spot. We all saw that coming on this program. If you watch this program, you would have known. Maryland, that was weird. I don't know what the hell happened there. You can't let that happen on your home floor. But I'm going to trust them. Number 1 offense in the country. Too much size, I think, for some of the mid-major teams to handle early in the tournament. So I think they'll make a deep run. Next set, Kentucky, Illinois, Villanova.
I am going to start Kentucky. I think this is a clear one. Kentucky just has too many weapons. They're starting to play a lot better. Oscar Tshiebwe, of course, National Player of the Year candidate. I think Kentucky kind of goes as Ty Washington goes. He's back, right?
Yeah, he did get hurt in the last game they played.
Okay.
So I think he might miss a little bit of time, the Florida game, but he'll be fine.
So, so I'm going to go with start Kentucky. And this one's tough for me. This one's tough. I've hated on Villanova verbally for a while. Then I liked them. Then they tried to let me down. But I am going, and Illinois our team, right? I mean, that's our team. But Illinois' consistency lately is just brutal. They play really good. They put up 44 points in the first half, and then they can't score a basket against a team like Northwestern. So it pains me to say it, but I am going to sit Villanova, and I am going to cut Illinois out of this group.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I knew that the Illinois game yesterday would break you.
It did.
To make you cut them.
It did.
I mean, Kentucky's clear number 1. I think Tshiebwe is going to be an absolute monster to handle. The big thing for them this week, though, they got Tennessee and Alabama this week, and Ty Washington probably doesn't play in either game.
Yeah.
So it's a big test. They'll probably lose one if I had to guess, but we'll see. But they're the clear one to – I mean, if they're starting to get guys outside of Ty and Tshiebwe to contribute, whether it's Keon Brooks having a big game, Kellen Grady's a really good shooter, Davion Mintz and Jacob Toppin were 2 guys that were there last season that struggled but have started to play better. Severe Wheeler is just not Ty Washington. So that's why they need Ty to be healthy. But, yeah, they're clear number 1 out of these 3. Villanova, depth is always the thing that I want to talk about with Villanova, but I think that Gillespie is not going to allow them to they're going to make a deep run. Like, he's one of the best point guards in the country. He's like the prime example of what you need in a point guard in March. Like, he is it. He is what you need. Last year they lost in the Sweet 16, I believe. Was it Sweet 16 or Elite 8 to Baylor? It was one of the two. But they kind of ran into a buzzsaw there.
My memory doesn't go past 5 days. So,
well, that's a tough one. But they just have a really, really good starting 5. I mean, they don't really have a true center, but that's fine. They'll be fine. And then Illinois, they're just inconsistent. Their guards have been not playing well at all for the most part over the last few games. and they have this guy that starts at the 4 that apparently forgot how to make a jumper. So, yeah. Next group: Duke, Wisconsin, UCLA.
This one I'm gonna go. I know UCLA. They were there last year. Made a great run, but I'm gonna go start Duke. I know they have some questionable losses against Miami and Florida State and Virginia, but I mean they were all close games. But I think Duke is the best team out of this. I'm gonna go ahead and sit UCLA, but that one's close. Wisconsin, no, see you later. I don't know if Wisconsin will make it out of the first weekend. So
yeah, I did the same. UCLA, trust them based off of last season. I think this season they're almost I think they're a better overall roster this season than they were last season, but there are some concerns there. If Juzang's not playing well, I think that's a big he was horrendous against Arizona State, and they lost that game. So that could be a problem. They need guys like Tiger Campbell and Jaime Jaquez to show up in those spots. Duke, though, I think the ACC being as bad as it is probably not going to help them in March. And some of the games they've lost have been very weird. I feel like they haven't shown up in a lot of big games. I mean, they showed up against Gonzaga and beat them, but then lose to Ohio State the next game. You can't lose to Florida State or Virginia. I feel like that's goes without saying. We shouldn't lose to Miami at home either. But I think that their lineup is just, they have so many different ways to beat you. Boncaro can do so many different things, whether it's going to the rim, he can shoot. Keels and Griffin are just two great shooters. Wendell Moore's been a completely different player this season than he was last year. And the big thing with them is the interior presence of Mark Williams and Theo John off the bench. So I feel like that's kind of the two big things for Duke. And Wisconsin, Wisconsin can't shoot. I don't know what the hell is wrong with their shooting. They can't shoot.
Yeah.
Their three-point shooting has been horrific, and it's really hurt them in the metrics. They're down to 36th, 51st overall offensively. They can't shoot, so that's the problem with them. Next one, Arizona, Gonzaga, Houston.
This is a good one. I think clearly the top two are Gonzaga and Arizona out of this. But I think Gonzaga just has too many weapons. They know how to win in the tournament. Arizona, of course, was banned last year or not?
Self-imposed, yeah.
Self-imposed ban. So I'm gonna start Gonzaga. I'll put Arizona sitting and Houston. I like them, but in this three, they're gonna get cut.
Yep, I did the same. I think Houston, it was so much better last season. Quentin Grimes, DeJon Jarreau, such a better team last season.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to make it very far this season. They got to the Final Four last year, and Baylor kind of, let them know what's up. But Gonzaga, clear number one. They're so deep. All five guys, double digits. Chet Holmgren and Drew Timme is going to be so much more dynamic than what they had last season. With Timmy by himself pretty much. So that's going to be a problem. But Arizona, clear number two. Arizona is kind of the one thing I worry about them with is Kriisa. If he's not playing well, they're in trouble. And Matherin's been a little bit shaky recently. Not the last few games, but before that he had a bit of a rough stretch. But the thing with Arizona, and it's a lot like Purdue, is they can turn it on whenever they want. The first 10 minutes against Washington, it was 25-12 Washington. They proceeded to score 33 points in the next 10 minutes with a 45. So they were down. I know Washington's not good. Arizona was down 13 in the first 10 minutes of the game. By halftime, they were up by double digits. So you have a bit of a problem when you run into them. That's going to be a problem. So, you're down 13 in the first 10 minutes of a game and you win that game by 25 points. I feel like that's something that you can point to and say, yeah, they can turn it on whenever they want. And Matherin was 8 for 11 in that game from the field. So they're just a really dynamic, really skilled, and a lot of great fundamentals. I feel like that's the thing with Gonzaga and Arizona. A lot of it's coaching. A lot of it's the same kind of style. Tommy Lloyd came over from Gonzaga. So love both of those teams. At least one of them will be in the Final Four, if not both. Last one of these, and I think this might be the hardest one, Alabama, Texas Tech, Ohio State.
Yeah. I think for me, I think Texas Tech can be the best team out of this group. So I'm going to go with them starting. And then I'm going to go I think Ohio State's kind of getting slept on a little bit. I think they find ways to win. I think EJ Liddell is a phenomenal player. And their big's getting better. What's his name? Anyways,
Zed Key.
He's getting better. So I'm gonna sit Ohio State. And sorry, Nate Oates, I got to cut Alabama.
So I went a bit of a different way here. I did cut Alabama. I don't trust them at all. I think they have all the talent in the world that you need to make a run, but they're just so inconsistent.
Yeah.
I'm sitting Texas Tech. So
okay.
I worry about their offense. They have some offensive shortcomings, which we knew they would. They're primarily a defensive team. They have the number 3 defense in the country, but they turn the ball over too much. They aren't very good from 3, and their free throw shooting is terrible. So that's where you worry. And you look at their losses, they have a couple of head scratchers. I think their defense travels. We know that. They've won a lot of big games, but I do worry about the offense for them. And I think that might get them somewhere. So that's why I'm starting Ohio State. I think Ohio State, like you said, finds ways to win. I think they have a much better lineup than people give them credit for. I think they're one of the better offensive teams in the country. They went into Michigan, little early adversity, won the game by 11. Like you said, Liddell, one of the best players in the country. They have an emerging freshman with Malachi Branham. So I think that despite the fact they're not the lengthiest team and they don't really play anybody who's above 6'8", I think that they're going to be very hard to beat.
Yeah, they just have guys that kind of do their things, right? I mean, Kyle Young, really good defender, gets some buckets when he needs to, and then Justin Aarons can shoot you out of the gym if he's hot. So.
And they're not losing in the first round again, so
no,
that's not going to happen. All right, let's do a couple bracketology things real quick. I got Heat Check, CBB. I believe this is Lucas Harkin's bracketology, number 2 rated on Bracket Matrix. I figured I'd check it out. Last 4 in appears to be Oregon, North Carolina, Miami, SMU. So that's a 2-bit American Athletic Conference. Congrats to them. Shout out, I think most would say. So Oregon, North Carolina in a playing game would be one of the biggest bloodbaths and one of the most embarrassing moments in the history of North Carolina basketball.
Yeah.
Like, I think Will Richardson would have 20. Jacob Young would have 15. It would be so ugly. And Dana Altman would embarrass Hubert, I think. So that's the problem for North Carolina. Miami SMU is a game that most people probably fall asleep to. I think Kendrick Davis is somebody that people should want to watch for SMU, but Miami is just so boring. Like, they got a 45-year-old running point for him pretty much. Charlie Moore is like 40 years old, right? So, but elsewhere, you look at some of these matchups, you want some electrifying 13 seed, 14 seed type games. I'll give you a 6-11 matchup on this bracket that would literally be must-watch TV. We just talked about them. Ohio State 6 seed, which I think they're actually going to end up being like a 5 or a 4 eventually. Time will tell. Versus 11 seed San Francisco. I mean, woo! San Francisco's backcourt is something that people should talk about more. Jamari Bouye is very good. I think he's an NBA first-round pick, like late first round. Not a lottery pick, late first round. San Francisco's much better than people give him credit for because there's like a hate campaign for the West Coast Conference going around. A lot of people, like, they hate it because it's not that good. Yeah, the bottom of the conference is terrible, but the few top teams are actually very good. Alabama, Michigan, another 6-11 matchup. This would be an interesting matchup. I think Michigan would win that game, but you never know.
Oh, yeah, I think that'd be a great matchup.
And you want a matchup for Wisconsin to get knocked out of the first round? Wisconsin, Vermont. Vermont 14 seed. Vermont has an extremely good offense.
Yeah.
Very good offense. They are going to be a problem wherever they play. Whoever plays them in the first round is going to get screwed. Like, that's a bad matchup. And this tweet from Tony Patelis, at Tony Patelis on Twitter, shout out. I got to find it here about Vermont, and it's pretty much a sentiment that everybody agrees with. If Vermont wins the America East and gets into the dance, I pity the team that draws them in the first round. So they're a good offense, so that's something to watch out for. But nothing too that stands out too much here. Wyoming Davidson is a 7-10, I think would be interesting. Wyoming, very good offensive team. Purdue taking on your guys at Longwood, 2-15 matchup. Good game there for sure. Illinois playing Wagner, who is in a conference in America. So congrats to them on that.
Yeah.
But nothing too much sticking out here. We'll find a different bracketologist for next week to look at some matchups, but nothing to disagree with, I think, on that because I don't think anybody really knows since it's only February. A lot of ball game left on that one, about a month to go. But what can you do?
Seems fair.
All right, best team in the Mountain West. We did this with the Atlantic 10 last year. We're going to do it with the Mountain West. 4 options, look at some various stats, and then pick. I think there's a clear number 1. I'll probably rank them, but I think there's a clear number 1 here. We're going to go from option 4 to option 1. Option 4, San Diego State, 15-6 overall, 7-3 in the Mountain West. Number 52 in the net, 1-5 Q1, 2-1 Q2, 5-0, and 7-0 and 3-4. 48th in the Basketball Power Index, ESPN BPI, which is total BS, by the way. The BPI rankings are a joke. 42nd on KenPom, 221st overall adjusted offense, 22nd adjusted defense. Best win was a neutral site victory over St. Mary's in December. Worst loss was to Boise State at Boise State by 5. But the kicker and the key there, they scored 37 points in that game. That's bad. Colorado State is the second option that we're going to go over here. They are 20-3. They're 10-3 in conference play. They obviously have a very dynamic player with David Roddy. We all know how good he is. Other numbers with them, they're 31st in the net, 2-2 in quad 1, 7-0 quad 2, 4-1 quad 3, 6-0 quad 4, 77th in the BPI, and then 32nd KenPom, 15th overall offense. Adjusted offensive efficiency, 113 defensively. Best win was over St. Mary's by 16 early December. Worst loss was home against UNLV by 14 just a couple weeks ago. Next option, Boise State, 19-6 overall record, 10-2 in the conference, 39th in the net, 5-1 quad 1, 3-4 quad 2, 5-0 quad 3. They have a quad 4 loss, 5-1 in quad 4. 62nd on the Basketball Power Index, 40th on KenPom, 126th adjusted offense, 11th defense. Their best win was over Wyoming by 3. That was a few weeks ago. And then, like I said, quad 4 loss to Cal State Bakersfield by 7. They only scored 39 points in that game, so that's a problem in November. And then the last option is Wyoming, 21-3, 10-1 in the Mountain West, 25th in the net, 2-2 quad 1, 6-1 quad 2, 5-0 quad 3, 7-0 quad 4, 91st on the BPI, which is very questionable, 30th on KenPom, 22nd adjusted offense, 77th defense. Best win at Fresno State by 2, and their worst loss was neutral site by 3 to Stanford in December. So, who's the best team in the Mountain West?
Since I've watched so much Mountain West basketball,
yes.
I'm clearly going with Colorado State.
Terrible pick, but
I mean, what do you want me to pick? The team that's winning the Mountain West right now? That seems too obvious.
Well, it's intriguing because the top 4, they're not separated by that much.
Sure.
But I think Wyoming is clearly the best team. Like,
sure.
I like Colorado State a lot. David Roddy's a stud. We all know that. But the thing to me is how stupid is the BPI on ESPN if Wyoming is 91st and San Diego State is 48th. Like, San Diego State 221st offense. That is horrendous. That is unbelievable to me. But if I were to rank these, I would say Colorado State is second. But then the problem is you have these incompetent offensive teams, Boise State and San Diego State. You probably go Boise State 2, San Diego State, or Boise State 3, San Diego State 4. But the problem is Boise State lost to Cal State Bakersfield. Like, that is a horrendous loss. But it was, November, so I guess that doesn't really matter that much. But Wyoming clearly the best. I think a lot of people would probably say Wyoming, but it's an interesting question given the fact that there's, multiple good teams in this conference. Probably a 3 to 4 bid conference. So shout out. And I think one of these teams makes a pretty good run. So we'll see if that actually happens. But now we move on to the next thing, which is, of course, by the way, National Player of the Year candidates according to CBS Sports: Drew Timme, Ochai Agbaji, Johnny Davis, Jaden Ivey, David Roddy are their 5. So no Sheboy, no Kofi. That is hilarious. You get a picture that's like post on Twitter about how stupid it is. All right, that'll go up in a little bit. All right, next. True X Factor players in conferences. Not the best player, the most important. This team needs this player to play well to win. ACC. Go.
I went with AJ Griffin of Duke.
That's a good pick. I went with Duke player as well. I went with Wendell Moore, lengthy guard. I think if he plays well, they play well. 52% from the field, 41 from 3, 75 from the line. Stuffs the stat sheet, I think is the phrase,
Sure.
the terminology. 13, 5, and 4. Pretty good. How you doing? Big Ten.
Big Ten, I went with Tyler Wall of Wisconsin.
That was under consideration for me.
Yeah, we've seen Wisconsin without him, and they're not anywhere near as good as they are. Everybody thinks this is, Johnny Davis's team, but Johnny Davis needs other guys, and the way Tyler Wall can move around the basket for not being an overly big guy is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I agree. What I was looking for in the Big Ten is efficiency. I think it's hard to be efficient in this conference.
Yeah.
But I think for Michigan State, Malik Hall, 10 points, 5 rebounds, and an assist per game, 56% from the field, 53% from 3, 77% from the line. I think they need him to play well to win. You look at a couple of their early season games, he had big games to get them those victories, specifically over Loyola Chicago and UConn in the battle for Atlantis. So he was big time in those games. Big East.
The Big East, I went with UConn guy, Isaiah Whaley.
UConn is a team that I usually love, but I'm starting to doubt Dan Hurley this season. I mean, I know they came back and beat St. John's yesterday, but, man, they are a team that hurts themselves more than almost anybody. So good pick, though. I'm going to go Eric Dixon, Villanova, 10 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 51% from the field, 45 from 3, 84 from the line. Just a lengthy guy. They need him there. I think that him being a compliment to Colin Gillespie, I think is probably a great way to utilize him, and I think they've done that this season. And I gotta go with the Villanova guy. I mean, I just have to. Big 12.
Big 12, I went with Kevin O'Banner of Texas Tech. Played at Oral Roberts last year, correct?
Yep.
I feel like he's a guy that at Oral Roberts he was a scorer, and I feel like they need him to play well to keep going, to do well. So, I
mean, it's an incompetent offense with Texas Tech, so
right.
They need a guy like him. That's my pick as well.
Okay.
Only averaging 9 points. They're going to need that to go up.
I'm surprised.
His 3-point percentage last season was 45. It's 31 this season. That's a problem.
Yeah.
An adjustment from the Summit League to the Big 12, I think, is definitely something that has happened. But if he can get going on offense, that's going to make Texas Tech a much more dangerous team than they already are.
Oh, yeah.
Pac-12.
100%. Pac-12, I went with kind of off the wall. I don't know, off the wall. I don't even know if this guy starts. I went with Miles Johnson of UCLA. I feel like Mick Cronin, is that his name?
Yeah, he treats Miles Johnson like a Brad Underwood player. Forget about him,
Yeah. And I feel like they need to utilize him a lot more. He played well in the Big Ten. He's a big body, and I don't know if that's just Pac-12 play doesn't use big bodies like that very often. But I think that he would be a key for UCLA to make a run. So
that's fair. I mean, that interior presence is definitely a big deal. He did it at Rutgers last season. So I'm going to go with the guy I mentioned earlier who's been very inefficient and has had some really bad games. Kirk Kriisa, Arizona. They need him to get going, run the point. 35 from the field, 33 from 3, averaging 10 points, 2 rebounds, 5 assists. If he can facilitate, make plays, and get better shots and shoot more efficiently, I think that makes Arizona like the only team that could touch Gonzaga if that happens. But I guess Auburn probably has an argument there. SEC.
I went with Ty Washington. I know that maybe you could say that he's the second best player on Kentucky, so maybe not fit in this category, but I feel like Kentucky needs him to be able to play well. Him being injured and stuff, I think he's a big part of Kentucky being good. So
I went with him as well.
Okay.
I think he's a he go they go guy. If he goes, they go. And point guard was a huge thing for Kentucky last season, especially given the year before that they had Tyrese Maxey, Emmanuel Quickly, and Ashton Hagans. So the fact they went from those three who were all dynamic, two of which who have been very good NBA players to this point, and then they go to having like no point guard last year. Now they get a guy like Ty Washington in there. They completely changes what Calipari can do, and Sheba is a huge part of that. The way that they've kind of rebuilt the roster without having like the marquee 5-star this year has been pretty impressive. Like he was a good recruit, but he wasn't a marquee normal Kentucky guy.
Right. And I think another one, we talked about him a lot, Walker Kessler. I think when he's playing well for Auburn, Auburn's a lot better. He can shoot, he can defend. He's a really good big.
Agreed. Mountain West.
Didn't even pick one.
All right. Hunter Maldonado, Wyoming.
Okay.
Second fiddle to Graham Ike. So this is a very dynamic duo. Both have length, 6'7", 6'9". Maldonado's a 6'7" guard, senior, 19 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. So he has good lines every night. 54% from the field, struggles from 3, 24%. Got to get that up. 72% from the line. You look at a few of his games recently. He had 23 against San Jose State. He was efficient. 23 against Utah State. 21 against Fresno State. He dropped 35 on Colorado State in an overtime game. Graham Ike, same way. That duo is going to be able to, carry them to some wins, I think, in the tournament. But Maldonado, my pick there. Did you pick a West Coast guy?
I did. I picked Chet Holmgren.
He might be the best player.
Yeah, I understand that, but I feel like when he started, the season, he just hadn't developed. I've talked about that earlier, and I feel like him getting better is going to make Gonzaga just elite. So,
yep, I agree.
Out there already. So
I didn't want to go with a Gonzaga player because it's just so easy, and I feel like the league's going to get multiple bids, and I'm just going to go with somebody that I hope gets in the tournament. That's Khalil Shabazz. Guard San Francisco. The backcourt duo of him and Jamari Bouye is just, come on. You got to watch that. It's great stuff. Shabazz is a stud, though. Not very efficient, but does score. 12 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Only 37, 31, 83 on the slash line, which isn't great, but I think he'll be fine. Him and Bouye on the back, in the backcourt for Todd Golden is marvelous basketball. They can score. Like their offense, not great metrics, but they've had a lot of games where they've scored a lot of points. Maybe not the greatest opponents. They beat the Academy of Art, scoring 111 points. So that was a big game for those guys. You got 18 from Bouye and 18 from Shabazz, so they were able to beat the Academy of Art. Pretty good. Unbelievable that they have a basketball team.
Fantastic.
Last one, American Athletic Conference.
I went with Lester Quinones. Quinones?
Memphis. I don't know how to say
Memphis. That one. I think that him playing well really helps Memphis. Against SMU, he had 4 points. Of course, Memphis lost that game. Came back and scored 13 against Houston. Pretty good 3-point shooter usually, shooting up in the 40% range. So I think he's a big part of Memphis trying to make a run to get into the tournament.
If you look at SMU's roster, I want them in the tournament so bad. First of all, Kendrick Davis is a stud. He's their best player. I'm going with Marcus Weathers, who's a forward, 6'5", 215, averages 12 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 54% from the field, 39% from 3, 74% from the line. He's the brother of Short Shorts. Short Shorts also plays for SMU. Michael Weathers also plays for SMU. They have both of them have played at like 3 different schools each.
Dang, look at him.
Marcus Weathers and Michael Weathers. So Marcus and his brother Short Shorts.
Okay.
With Kendrick Davis, this team has to get in the tournament.
Michael Weathers is leading the team in blocks as a guard.
He's 6'3", too. He played at
I
Miami.
mean, it's only 1.1, but
Still. Well, the majority of their minutes are played by guys who are 6'5" and under.
Mm.
So you look at the majority of their minutes, they have Davis is 6 foot, both Weathers 6'5", 6'3", Emmanuel Bandumel 6'4", and Zach Nuttall 6'3". So
That's a name.
Yeah, I mean, this team has to get in the tournament. So Marcus Weathers played at Miami, Duquesne, SMU. Michael Weathers went Miami of Ohio, Oklahoma State, Texas Southern, SMU. They got to get in the tournament. Short Shorts and his brother, we need them in the tournament. So hopefully SMU gets in.
Does Marcus wear short shorts? Or
Great question. I mean, I haven't really paid attention, but I think that if they do, then that just gives them an even bigger advantage, I would think.
Michael has a heck of a mustache too. Look at that thing.
He does wear pretty short shorts, yeah.
Okay.
Those are fairly short, I would say. But all right.
A new thing.
5 conference tournament sleepers.
Okay.
Number 1.
So I assumed this was like teams that need to win the conference tournament to get in. I didn't know.
That's fair. Yeah.
Number 1, I went with a team that you think is probably going to get in anyways, but I went with Oklahoma. Did you say that you thought they were getting in, or did I just make that up?
Oklahoma or North Carolina, one of the two, I think, gets in.
Okay.
That's going to be a very hard tournament to win.
Yeah, I agree. But I think once Porter Moser learns, plays these teams, a couple times, I think he's going to figure things out. Heck of a coach. So I think that he finds a way to let Oklahoma get in there. So
my first pick is Michigan in the Big Ten. I don't know. I feel like they've played these teams enough to where if Caleb Houston can actually make some shots and Dickinson's playing well, they could probably beat anybody.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, I was going with them or Rutgers, and I was like, okay, I trust Michigan to win a big game more than Rutgers right now on a neutral court.
Yeah.
Because Rutgers went in the Big Ten tournament last year without really needing to do anything, and they just got obliterated by Illinois. So something to think about. What's your second?
My second is San Diego State out of the Mountain West. I picked them to win the conference regular season. I think that they make a run in the tournament. The Mountain West that I love so much and I watch all the time. I'm going with San Diego State.
I'm going Atlantic 10. I'm going St. Louis, who's playing St. Bonaventure right now, and they're down by 2 with 21 seconds left.
Ouch.
They need to win this conference tournament, and it's pretty open. I mean, after Davidson, there's not really a team that's a big threat over the other. I mean, St. Bonaventure has so many veterans. They should be so much better than they are, but they're not. So I'm going to go with SLU. What's your third?
My third is Colorado out of the Pac-12.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. But the Pac-12 is known for having wild results.
That's right. The Buffaloes might make a run. Who knows? I don't know. You don't know. Colorado.
Yep. 150th offense. Not bad. Lost to Southern Illinois. All right. I'm going to go with Cal State Fullerton in the Big West. This is a team that after Long Beach State, pretty wide open conference, Hawaii, Cal State Fullerton, UC Irvine, all 6-3, 7-3. Cal State Fullerton, very balanced. They don't really do anything too special on either end of the floor. Their tempo is pretty normal, but I don't know. They can kind of lull you to sleep. Maybe do that to Long Beach State late in the tournament. We'll see. The WAC is where I went next, so I don't know why I said that first. You're fourth.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I went Grand Canyon. They won it last year.
Same.
So I feel like we were probably in lockstep there. I probably knew it the whole time. But, I mean, I'm going to trust Bryce Drew. Great defensive team. 51st in the country in defensive efficiency. People probably don't realize that this Western Athletic Conference has 4 top 100 defensive efficiency teams. And Grand Canyon is one of them. They won it last year, like I said, 7-4 in the conference this year, 17-6 overall. I don't see why they couldn't do it. They have a pretty good roster. If you look at it, you recognize some of the names over the past few seasons, but why not?
Yeah.
Why not? All right.
I agree.
Fifth pick.
My last pick is going to be Drake out of the Missouri Valley Conference. They beat Loyola this year. They lost to Northern Iowa by 5, I believe. So look out for Drake.
That's not a bad pick. I'm going to go with Morehead State, Ohio Valley Conference.
Just because I love Morehead.
They won it last year. They beat Belmont in that last year. So shout out to them. They had that going for them. But I don't know. I mean, they had Murray State in the ropes, lost that game. They had Belmont as well. The game before that they lost. Their offense definitely is a worry, but their defense is good. They scored 53 and 47 points the last 2 games. That's not ideal, but they won it last year. I don't see why they couldn't do it again, but I'd be kind of surprised if Murray State doesn't run through. I mean, Murray State is very good, so that could be a problem for them. Upset picks of the week. I went 2-1 last week. I had Arkansas and Michigan, and then I lost with DePaul, which DePaul had it until they didn't.
I think I went 2-1. I don't remember. Who did I pick? Maybe I went 1-2.
You had Arkansas, you had Illinois, which was a loss. And then I don't remember your other one.
It was Rutgers, wasn't it?
Rutgers over Wisconsin.
Rutgers at Wisconsin.
There you go, 2-1. So I'm starting this week with a really bold one, I think. Duke has been prone to losing games. So I'm going to take Wake Forest to beat Duke tomorrow.
That's my first pick also.
How about that? I mean, we're just great minds think alike.
I know.
It's probably the thing here.
Impressive.
My next pick is a much-needed victory here for St. John's over Xavier. St. John's needs to win this game, so I'm going to say they do on Wednesday.
Okay. Yeah. My second game was Oklahoma over Texas. I believe Oklahoma's at home, so I don't even know if it's going to be an upset, right? They might be a favorite.
Technically, I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah.
So I don't know, but I feel like Oklahoma needs to pile on some wins. We've talked about it. To get in, they're going to have to make a little bit of a run and put some marks in the win column left side, whatever they say. Yeah, that. So.
Absolutely, they are. Yeah. I'm going to go with Saturday, Oregon over Arizona for my third pick.
Okay. Wow. That's a good one. I am going to go with my third pick, kind of like I did last week. I think Wisconsin loses again at home. Wait, maybe they're at Indiana. I don't know. But I think Indiana beats Wisconsin.
That game is
until Wisconsin proves to me they're better than their weak-ass schedule, I'm going to pick them to lose every game.
Fair. Totally fair. I can't find that game, but I don't know where it's at.
Tuesday tomorrow, I think
it's at Indiana.
At Indiana, okay, yeah. So
I
think Wisconsin's going to lose Indiana.
We'll see. Games of the week is where we finish this thing. For tonight, I had St. Louis, St. Bonaventure. That game is now over. St. Bonaventure won by 4.
Ouch.
So scratch that one off. Then later tonight, we got 8 p.m., 3 games. Oklahoma State at number 6, Kansas. Oklahoma State can hang around with them a little bit. Probably not do too much after that, but that's on ESPN. 8 p.m., ESPNU, Washington State at Oregon. Washington State, very talented team. Haven't been as good as a lot expected, including myself this season, but they could beat Oregon. We'll see. And then Dayton at Rhode Island. Rhode Island just beat Davidson, so who knows? Rhode Island is a team that can upset some people, no doubt. So I'm going to go with them. And Dayton, that's 8 o'clock CBS Sports Network. Then Tuesday, 5:30, Michigan State at Penn State. Just because Penn State's hung around with some teams, they probably should have beaten Wisconsin if their offense wasn't atrocious. That's on Big Ten Network. 6 o'clock, Wake Forest at number 9, Duke. Number 20, Texas at Oklahoma. And Memphis at Cincinnati. Those are all ESPN products.
Is this live? This is, Penn State's only 2.5 point dog.
It's not that surprising. I mean, Penn State has hung around with these, but 2.5 is definitely pretty low considering the two teams' resumes against each other.
I think, yeah, but
later on Tuesday, this is probably the biggest game of the week on paper. Number 10, Villanova at number 8, Providence. 7 o'clock on CBS Sports Network, allegedly, I guess. That doesn't feel like a CBS Sports Network game to me, but it is.
Okay.
Then you got number 4, Kentucky at number 16, Tennessee at 8 o'clock on ESPN. As you alluded to earlier, Wisconsin, got the W's mixed up. Wisconsin at Indiana. Wisconsin number 15, it's 8 o'clock ESPN 2. Wyoming at New Mexico. Wyoming number 22, by the way. Shout out to them. 8 p.m.
My upsets aren't very good. Indiana is a 3.5-point favorite.
Not great. Utah State at San Diego State, 9 p.m. CBS Sports Network. And then Wednesday, we have St. John's at Xavier, 5:30. Mississippi State at number 25, Alabama at 6 o'clock. Number 12, Illinois at Rutgers, 6 o'clock. Seton Hall at UConn, 7:30. Number 5, Purdue at Northwestern, 8 o'clock. And number 7, Baylor at number 10, Texas Tech at 8 o'clock. Thursday, North Texas at FAU at 6 o'clock on ESPN+. That's number 1 in the Conference USA West versus number 2 in the Conference USA East. A couple of the best teams in the conference there. Michigan at Iowa. Michigan could really use that game, and Iowa's offense has just been destroying everybody. So something to think about. 6 o'clock. Oral Roberts at North Dakota State at 7 o'clock. That's number 2 in the Summit versus number 3 in the Summit. Colorado State at New Mexico. New Mexico, a team that could be somebody that could upset them. Oregon at Arizona State, just because Arizona State somehow hung around with good teams or they beat UCLA. Could be an interesting spot for Oregon. Big West Coast game, San Francisco at St. Mary's at 9 o'clock Central on Thursday, and then Washington State at UCLA, number 13, at 10 o'clock on FS1. Another game where Washington State just so talented. They could beat anybody, I think, in the Pac-12, other than Arizona probably, but you never know. Friday night, Richmond at VCU at 6 o'clock, Princeton at Brown at 6 o'clock. The only reason I put that game on there is because Princeton defines electricity on offense. An Ivy League team with a top 50 adjusted offense, something to watch. Then Wright State at Oakland, really just reaching for games on Friday night at this point. Number 4 in the horizon versus number 2 in the horizon. So there you go. Saturday, 11 a.m. games. Xavier at number 24, UConn number 12, Illinois at number 19, Michigan State, UMBC at Vermont. Vermont, like I said, very good America East team. 11:30 a.m. Central, Texas Tech, who's number 11 at number 20, Texas at noon. Number 25, Alabama at number 4, Kentucky. 1 o'clock, number 2, Auburn at Florida. 1:30, Iowa at number 18, Ohio State. 2:30, St. Louis at Davidson. 3 o'clock games. You have number 16, Tennessee at number 23, Arkansas. A good SoCon game with VMI at Chattanooga. North Texas at UAB, number 2 in the Conference USA West versus number 1. 5 o'clock, Florida State at number 9, Duke. Let's see if Florida State can not give up a billion points in the first half like they did against North Carolina on Saturday. Then you have Drake at Loyola Chicago. Big game there. Loyola Chicago already lost to them early in the season, like you said. Utah State at Boise State, 5 o'clock, CBS Sports Network. New Mexico State at Grand Canyon, 7 o'clock, ESPN+. Santa Clara at number 1, Gonzaga, 8 o'clock. Oregon at number 3, Arizona, 9 o'clock. Long Beach State at UC Santa Barbara, 9 p.m. San Diego State at Fresno State, 9 o'clock. And the final games. Sunday, Michigan at number 15, Wisconsin at noon. Missouri State at Northern Iowa at 1 o'clock. Marquette at Creighton at 2 o'clock. Rutgers at number 5, Purdue at 4:30. And Washington State at number 17, USC at 6:30. So big week of games. We'll see.
As it is, yes.
So that means that we'll be back next Monday on the 21st for the 3rd edition of this as we get ever closer, a couple weeks away from a big-time
3 weeks.
Big-time conference tournaments going down soon.
4 weeks.
We'll be back to discuss that, all that and more next week. Countdown to March Madness number 3 coming your way next Monday. See you.